WTU Team Meeting, Feed the Studs. Humility, the fundamental of elite leadership. There's a phrase that has quietly guided almost every successful offense I've ever been a part of. It's not a catchy system like West Coast, Air Raid, Spread, or Wing T. The list goes on forever. It's not a favorite play like Split Veer from Remember the Titans. It's just like Novocaine, give it time, it always works. It's just three words that have been a part of every successful offense that I have been able to coach in my career. Feed the studs. So let me explain. Over my career, there's been one pattern that's difficult to ignore. At Culver Stockton College, in year 2, we produced the best offense in school history. At Tiffin University, year 2, produced the best offense in school history. At Urbana University, in my second year calling the offense, we produced the best offense in school history. We proceeded over those 7 years to coach the 5 most prolific offenses in school history as well. At Lock Haven University, year 1 became the best offense in school history. Year 2, we surpassed it. At Graham High School, year 2 produced the best offense in school history. And then at Sydney High School, by year 2, we led the Miami Valley League in offense. So when people hear that list, I think it's kind of natural to look for a common denominator. Maybe it's me, but I'd argue for the most part, that may only be partially true. The common denominator wasn't that I was some offensive genius. The common denominator was humility. Every one of those teams had exceptional players. They were outstanding quarterbacks. Clint Grotehouse, the GOAT at Culver Stockton College. Donnie Johnson and Matt Root at Tiffin University, Hall of Famers. DJ Mendenhall, most prolific quarterback that I've coached, 10,000-yard passer, 2,000-yard rusher, accounted for 130-plus touchdowns in his career. Caleb Walton at Lock Haven University, Hall of Famer. Eli Hollingsworth, quarterback at Graham High School, right? Led the most successful offense in school history and most productive quarterback. Ethan New at Sydney High School did the same. Was a guy that we transitioned from tight end to quarterback, and he became the most prolific passer in Sydney High School history. So every one of them is either in the school's Hall of Fame or has a legitimate claim to being the GOAT in their school history. They were true difference makers. Along them, we also had some extraordinary receivers. We had running backs. We had 1,000-yard receivers, 1,000-yard running backs at pretty much every place that I've been. And behind that, there's an offensive line that made everything work. We built it with the guys up front first. Give a special shout out here to Bad Company, the offensive line at Urbana University. So now in this part of the process, my responsibility has been as a play caller. But as a play caller, it's not my job to prove how smart I am. It's my job to create an environment where our players could maximize their abilities. Now, that philosophy takes me back to the year 2000. I was a graduate assistant at the University of Louisville, still basically trying to learn the base foundation of what great football looked like. It was during that season, we were on a bye week before we would play Florida State. And Coach Scott Linehan, who was our offensive coordinator, comes in at the start of the week. And that first week, there's largely a coordinator's week. So the coordinators are there. Pretty much everyone else besides the graduate assistants are out on the road recruiting. So I was in the office with him. Well, he walked in and he had a travel bag full of VHS tapes. That dates me just a little bit there. So he had a travel bag full of VHS tapes that were basically films of Florida State. A lot of them were all 22 films. Some of them were TV films for the previous 3 years of Florida State's football. And we spent the better part of that week locked in the coach's office breaking down those films, him watching them and me recording the data. Well, during that part of that process, at one point in time, I asked a simple question. It's more to make conversation. If any of you have worked with Coach Linehan as a graduate assistant, you'll realize if you're his graduate assistant, he doesn't talk to you a ton. He does, and when he does talk to you, it's because something needs to get done. So I was just trying to make conversation. I said, Coach, what's our offensive philosophy? He didn't reach for a playbook. He didn't draw a formation. He didn't install a concept. He didn't go through a favorite play. He just kind of looked at me somewhat gruffly and said, 3 words, feed the studs. Ultimately, that answer changed a lot of the way that I was thinking about coaching. At first, when I first started, simply is get it to our best players. Get it to the best players that are out there on the field. Find a way to get the ball to the best players. Over time, though, I realized that it was teaching me something much bigger than just get it to your best players. That is part of it. But what I took away from it was don't let your ego call the plays. Call things that give your players the best opportunity to succeed on game day, whether that's a Friday night or whether that's a Saturday. Give them the opportunity to make plays doing the things that they do best, which is a process. Don't force your favorite play, right? Because that play looks good on a call sheet. I've been in several interviews before in my life where I've been asked, what's your favorite play? And I go, I don't really have one, but if I had my way and my players were just better than your players, we'd just run power. But there are times where we haven't ran a lot of power because maybe it wasn't what we did best. The job of a leader is not to do what they want. It's not to try to prove that you're the smartest guy. It's not to try to be the smartest guy in the stadium. You want to coach or lead in a way that your people become the stars. That philosophy eventually became the foundation of the offense that I've run throughout my career. Okay, I call it MAPS, and it's not because I want another fancy name for a system like Air Raid or whatever. In fact, when I hear that, I go, all right, you've fallen into a camp, right? I believe we feed the studs. Figure out the best way to get our best players to be able to do what they do best on game day. But I use something called MAPS. It's an acronym. That acronym stands for multiple, aggressive, physical, and sound. So what is the idea behind multiple? What's the core basis for how you feed the studs? If you run a system that can only do one thing, and that's all you can do, then your players, your personnel that you have, if they're not good at that, what's their fit? They struggle with having a fit. So we want to be multiple. In order to be multiple, we're going to use multiple formations, movements, motions, do things that allow our players to be put in positions to take advantage of the weaknesses of our opponent. So we're going to use their strengths. The second part is aggressive. We want to take advantage of what we can do now. This goes back into the idea of change. All right, poor leaders fear change. Good leaders adapt with change. And great leaders take advantage of the opportunities that change creates. So we want to be aggressive. That means, hey, let's take advantage of what right now is driven by the marketplace we're in, by the game that we're in. So let's take advantage of that now. Don't put it in your back pocket. I often ask this question of recruits that we have on campus. I ask them, say, so what's the best play call? What's the best play call I can make as a play caller? And inevitably, one of them will say, run the ball, or run power, run zone. Another one, throw the ball. Hey, throw the fade to me if I'm a receiver. They're going to name some specific play. My answer is simple. The best play to run is the one that works. Then I'll follow that up with the question, well, what's the worst possible play that I can call? And by that point in time, they got the trick question idea, so they respond with one that doesn't work. And I go, it's not quite that simple. I go, yeah, the one that doesn't work, obviously you don't want to call that. But I think the worst possible play that you can call is the one that you call in fifth quarter. What is fifth quarter? And that's when the game is over and we're walking out to the after post-game tailgates. You're talking to the parents about the game. You're talking to your players about the game. You're talking to families about the game. And you have this play call that's in your back pocket that you never used. So be aggressive. Create momentum now. Get Big Mo on your side. The third letter, P, is physical. So obviously, football has a physical component. The teams that block the best, that tackle the best, and play that physical component at the highest level have the most success. So we're going to try to build that into what we do in our preparation. But I'd also argue that one of the most important parts of physicality is knowing what you're doing and having confidence to do it. This carries over not only to the sport of football, it carries over to every sport, it carries over to everything that you do in your life. If you're prepared to do something, you'll be successful in doing it. So in order to be physical, the biggest key is preparation. If a highly prepared person is a confident person, that person will pull the trigger, right? Will be confident in what they do. They will act without hesitation. Acting without hesitation, because of your preparation, is what allows you to be physical on a football field. So we've now had multiple, aggressive, and physical. The last part is sound. Anything that we want to do in order to get our players to do best, it needs to be sound. If we can take one of our best players and give them the opportunity to do what they do best in a one-on-one situation, I have confidence that they're going to win. If they have to go 1 versus 2, which means the numbers are against them, that likelihood greatly decreases. So the idea of being sound is we want to do things that are sound, that match the numbers on the field. So our offensive philosophy is multiple, aggressive, physical, sound. If you wanted to look at it, multiple, right? Do things that highlight the strengths of your people. Aggressive, act with conviction. Physical, prepare so that you can act without hesitation. And sound, do things that are fundamentally sound. On a football field, that's putting the ball in a place of the field where your numbers are equated or you have an advantage. So ultimately, MAPS as an offense wasn't created to showcase an offense. It was created to showcase our personnel, our players. Looking back, I've had 7 different quarterbacks from those offenses that have become either Hall of Famers or the most productive quarterbacks in school history. I'm proud of every one of them. But none of that happens if myself as a coach insisted on feeding my own ego and doing what I liked to do versus emphasizing the strengths of the team. So that's the lesson. Leadership is not about getting people to admire your system. Leadership is creating a system that allows others to become exceptional, allows them to succeed. Whether you're coaching football, leading a business, parenting your children, managing a team, or building a culture, never let your ego get in the way of what is right. Feed the studs. Because great leaders don't build systems around themselves. They build systems that bring out the best in everyone else. That's today's team meeting. Look forward to seeing you next time.